if you've got a sibling that you've never met, never talked to, you've subconsciously got a piece of you missing.
Yeah.
And I still feel like it, even though I know most of my siblings. There's some siblings I don't know much. There's some siblings I know pretty well, but not entirely. And it's just kind of, as you learn more about your siblings and your family, you then start finding out more things about yourself.
We would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Voices in Action podcast with Create Foundation SA team. This podcast is called Voices in Action, Journey in Care.
We are excited to be releasing our first podcast series. We have episodes lined up to appeal to the out-of-home care sector, fostering change and advocating for a better future for young people in care. We hope this podcast is helpful for children and young people in the care system and inspires you that you are a valuable human being.
We acknowledge that the topics discussed can be potentially triggering, so we encourage you to take care of yourself. Check in with yourself at the end of each episode and seek support if needed. We've listed some support services in the show notes. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Voices in Action podcast, Journey into Care. Today we have Tanaya with us. Hi Tanaya, how are you going?
Hi everyone.
Hello Tanaya.
And we have Fabian with us.
Hello.
Co-hosting.
Good to be back.
Good to be back. Yes, today's episode is Sibling Connection. So before we jump into Sibling Connection, I just love if Tanaya could introduce herself, what you're currently doing and the type of placement you were in when you were in care, and there's a lot of questions actually in this one, and what role Create played in your life or live now.
Amazing. So my name's Tanaya. I'm 19 years old. I originally came into residential care and then ended up with a foster family. I'm currently a manager of a small town restaurant / cafe, and Create has just helped me get my voice out there and just, learn more about myself and the system.
Amazing. So Tanaya has done our Speak Up program. And when did you first engage with Create? Do you have a memory when you were younger, or was it more recently?
So I kind of indirectly connected with Create through Christmas parties and stuff like that. The more in-depth connection with Create was probably this year when I came to Speak Up.
Yeah, that's right. And then you came to our conference. Yes.
I do remember hearing about Fabian, and I've heard this quite a lot lately, but Fabian, you've got to meet this other new amazing young consultant coming up. And yes, that was you, Tanaya, and you're shying away from the microphone. Luckily, we don't have a camera on. But yes, you're another up-and-coming young consultant. Great to have you on board, and you've already done, as busy as you are, you've played a big role with Create and what we do so far already. So thank you, and great to have you here.
So let's jump in today's question. So can you share with us today how many siblings you have?
So in my biological family, I'm one of 14 children. That's 7 boys and 7 girls, making me number 9. And then in my foster family, I have 4 sisters.
Wow.
Relationship with the foster family, siblings? Good?
It's pretty well.
Yeah. Awesome.
They're all a bit older than me. So they were all adults when I was 16. But we've connected because they used to take me out and have fun. So
nice.
That was pretty good.
How old were you when you went into foster care?
So when I went to live with my foster family, I actually moved in with them the day after my 6th birthday.
Okay. Wow.
And how long was that placement?
It's coming up 13 and a half years.
Wow.
Are you still living? Oh, you've moved.
I've moved out.
I've
got
Are still supported by them a lot if you need? Yeah.
Yeah, so I try to go for dinner at least once or twice a week.
That's nice.
Just catch up, cool. Message.
It just goes to show the consistency of a stable placement and what it can give for young people. Even when they leave, we've heard that they want to go back and still engage with them. So that's lovely. That's lovely to hear.
And before foster care, you said you were in residential care. Is that right? From what age did you go into resi care?
I think I went into resi care when I was 3.
Okay.
So I was initially in a house with 4 of my siblings, which had a conjoining house with another 4 of my siblings. And then we moved into a different house, which was just me and 3 of my younger siblings.
Okay, that actually ties into the next question.
So once you came into the care system, did you stay living with your siblings or were you separated? Which, yes, you just sort of answered. But, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so having a really large biological family with a lot of siblings, they obviously couldn't put us in one house. So it was kind of split from everyone above me in one house and then everyone, like me and everyone younger in my house. And then when I went into foster care, I got put with one of my siblings, which didn't work out just because of behaviour and just extra needs that couldn't be met. So, I ended up without biological siblings, but the foster ones made up for it.
Yeah. And what did sibling contact look like during your time in care?
Sibling access, once I was in a foster family, was an hour each school holidays. That's 4 hours a year.
Wow.
Over COVID, it stopped completely, and since then we haven't had anything.
Oh, to this day still?
Yep.
Okay.
So any contact, because like once COVID became a thing, any contact after that had to be self-arranged, around the over 18 siblings. And if it was with a younger sibling, it had to be done personally through their social worker, and then it would just be like you and that sibling. It wasn't a collective group.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Was it collective when you, before COVID, and you had it once in the holidays? Was that all together? Or?
So before COVID, it was everyone that was available on the set day that they chose.
Okay.
So it wasn't all right, people work these days, other people work these days, but they've all got this day off. It was just a set day that the social workers decided worked for them.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't make it, that was your issue.
So
you got an hour. And because a lot of the siblings lived north and some lived south, it had to be in the middle, so around the city somewhere. So the drive to the sibling access was actually longer than the access itself.
What age were you when you had this contact, like these 1 hour every school holidays? How old were you back then when it started?
From 6 up until...
Just recently, well, 3 years ago, COVID.
15.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. How did the process make you feel like of access, like how the amount of time, the distance sometimes you have to travel, and then, as you said, the distance being longer time than actually spending with your siblings, like how did it make you feel about the future contact as well?
Well, my social workers will tell you I was very opinionated. I'd voice my opinions. I'd let them know that I wasn't happy with it.
And you should. Every young person should.
So sometimes it was at a swimming pool. Sometimes it was at like bounce or flip out. And the thing about bounce and flip out is there's age restricted areas.
Yeah.
Of course.
So the older kids would obviously go into the older kid spots. And then the younger kids weren't allowed in.
It's not really thought out.
It's not, It's not so it was access but not access, because you still want to have fun, because amazing, but then you split up because it's just very
like
challenging.
Even food, if we were at flip out, we couldn't get food because it wasn't in the budget. So you just had to get food on the way home with your social worker. So it was like
and food brings people together.
Yes, you sit down and
talk. That's right. That should be really considered in as part of contact.
We had a couple where it was a barbecue at a park, but that was more north because the collective were further north living. And that was just like a barbecue. But as soon as the barbecue was over, it was like pack up and go.
So rushed.
Yeah.
Just to finish off that question before we move on to the next, if you were in charge of organising it.
It would definitely be a lot more than 1 hour 4 times a year. That's 4 hours and 365 days. That doesn't even make up a full day. I would say at least like 4 hours maybe. And you'd try to split it up. I know that social workers don't work on weekends, but at the Create conference we actually had a discussion about residential carers and stuff like that. Some of those are willing to work on weekends. So if social workers, say if they opted to work on a weekend so that siblings could catch up on a Saturday when they didn't have school,
Yeah.
then maybe they got
Interesting.
their Monday off or something like
Yeah.
That's a great
that. You
idea.
just
Almost
swap
like
a day.
almost like a specific sibling worker.
Yes.
Like a sibling contact. Ooh, okay, here we go. DCP, if you're listening, some
Yeah.
ideas here.
Or a
Yeah,
s-
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Or a
All right,
system
yeah.
that allows even the social workers to opt to swap a day from their normal work week, work a day on a weekend, and then you can have it more often, because I know
Yeah.
school does impact
Yeah.
the time a lot. I know social workers and DCP staff have their own kids, their own lives.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you think about it, being not in care or whatever, you've got your kids 365 days a year, right? How would you feel if you got to see them 4 hours a year? That's not good enough.
Yeah. It's not
It's
good.
pretty hard.
Were your visits supervised or unsupervised?
They were always supervised.
Yeah.
Until I turned about 16, 17-ish. Then I started organising my own little catch-ups with the over 18 siblings, which I think I was supposed to tell DCP. Don't tell them I said this, but I didn't. I'm not encouraging that.
Yeah.
But it started off with me asking if I could have a sleepover. And they would transport me there, transport me home, because obviously I didn't have my licence. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, no, you can't go. You've gone too many times. So I turned around and said, okay, all good. That weekend that I got declined for, messaged, if I can get on a train, can you pick me up from the train near yours?
Yeah.
Yep. Did it ourselves.
And unfortunately, the policies, procedures, or that doesn't even sound like a policy and procedure, but that's sometimes what happens. They drive young people to do those things because they had a change of mind, or sometimes they just can't due to another young person, which is unfortunate, but there needs to be probably things put in place where they make sure that contact happens, no matter what. It just needs to happen. The promises or the dates need to be kept for young people, and we've heard that a lot, that a lot gets cancelled. And
it wasn't even like the dates. It was just kind of, oh, you've gone to this sibling's house too many times in like a short period of time, so you need to have a break. Imagine telling someone they need to have a break from seeing their family after only being able to see them for 4 hours a year for the past, 5, 6 years.
This is the biggest concern we hear from young people, is around not having enough sibling contact and quality
not
time.
having enough of their own voice involved in the contact itself and what it looks like.
Yeah, and even phone calls. If I wanted to call a sibling, the social worker had to be with me, their social worker had to be with them, and the social workers called each other. And then they would sit in the room.
Yeah, wow. How do you even talk to your siblings when they were like, what do you talk about? And it's, if there's anything you would have wished had been different when it comes to sibling contact, what would it be?
The time, like the duration of the actual access, the activity that was performed. Like swimming's fun, but if you've got the eldest sibling being in their 20s and the youngest sibling being maybe 10, that doesn't work, because you've got the 10-year-old not wanting to go in the deep end or wanting to go in the deep end, but the 20-year-old isn't there to, quote, babysit. There's different interests.
Yeah, so thinking about everyone's interests, everyone's age group, who's going to be there.
What kind of suggestions, sort of put you on the spot here, what would you suggest, or what would you have liked to have done if you could choose the time or the place
The
as
location,
well? More the location more than anything.
Would be suitable for siblings coming together.
My group is very sporty,
Mm.
so
good point.
Yeah.
Individualising what the young
it's
people do.
Individualised. It shouldn't be a broad thing.
Park, bounce, this, cafe, shop, deli,
it
whatever.
should be asking the group, what do you want to do next time?
Yeah.
I know that there's a budget, but you just let them know, all right, what do you want to do next time? Just remember there is a budget. So you're obviously not going to go fly planes.
Yeah.
But you could take them to a
Interesting.
skate park. You could take them to a like basketball rink or something
Yeah.
and go, all right, there's 14 siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got both teams.
Yeah.
Split evenly.
Yeah.
1-2, 1-2.
It's a great idea.
Yeah,
Different
looking at that family individually
Yeah,
and
what
coming
they
up
like
with a
doing.
plan with the whole family.
Exactly.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying bounce is a bad idea,
Mm.
but I'm also saying that limits your time even more.
Yeah.
Because at bounce, you're waiting in lines
Yeah.
just to get on a
Yeah.
trampoline.
Yeah.
And then it's only by yourself on a tramp. You can't
Yeah.
have,
You're not allowed 2
Yeah.
people on a trampoline. Like, flip out is a little bit better because you can have more people. But then in the older section, like the parkour section, where you are allowed more than one person on the trampoline, you've got that age restriction.
Yeah.
You have to be 12 or something.
Mm.
And a bunch of siblings were not even 10 yet.
Yeah. Anything else you think would be good for how contact should look like, or which should be thought about through the caseworkers or foster carers? Or
I just feel like the caseworkers or social workers or whoever's supervising needs to, whether they're happy that they're doing it or not, they need to seem enthusiastic, because some of the people that we had,
what? Yeah.
Interesting.
look, they made it sound like it was a chore that they were there. I was like, in my head, I was just saying to myself, you're getting paid,
It's their job. It's
sit
part of
down.
their job role.
eat a barbecue, like make it, like you didn't even have to make the barbecue. My dad would come to sibling accesses
Yeah.
and he would always cook the barbecue. They didn't have
Yeah.
to do anything other than sit there, make sure no one dies.
So do you think they need to be a bit more involved?
Maybe not involved as such as like
Don't
if
give the
you're playing a
impression
game.
they don't want to be there,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
which is what it sounds like.
Interact with us.
Yeah.
Don't be like, okay, this is my client,
Mm.
child that
Yeah.
I'm looking after. The others don't matter.
Mm.
Get to know my siblings.
Yeah. That's a really
If
good
I'm trying
point.
to talk to you about my sibling,
Yeah.
and you've sat there and you
Interesting.
haven't
Yeah.
even said hello to them,
Yeah.
I can't really interact with you about my
Yeah.
siblings. Whereas if you've had a conversation with them, if you've joined in the volleyball, which
Yeah.
some social workers did,
Yeah.
points to them.
Yeah.
And we have heard it's not all doom and
Yeah.
gloom.
Yeah.
We do hear and have heard, social, but it makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes
exactly.
a huge difference.
Also, the if there's siblings with jobs,
Yeah.
you've got to work around them. It's not just when it's
Mm.
Some really good
available
points.
and convenient for you.
Yeah.
It's about the children
Mm.
and the siblings, not about you as a
They
person.
practically need like workers
A
separate.
whole new sector.
A
yeah,
whole new
literally
sector within
Just
DCP.
a
or
sibling sector.
just a
Yeah.
sibling sector, like organising. It's like event management. You're
Yeah,
organising everything with every party so that everyone can get involved, because that quality time is so precious. I feel like it's the most precious thing. Being with my siblings, it's like
Definitely.
gives me so much joy. It's just for me, and I like
And there's
imagine.
that much of it happening. It could become another department, another area in the department, wholly and solely on sibling contact. Yeah.
Did anyone ever ask you what sibling contact should look like, or was it just done?
It was kind of just done.
You were
So-
never in input.
So I used to complain a lot,
Mm.
especially when it would take me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to sibling access, and then I'd be there for an hour, but you have to wait 20 minutes to get in,
Mm.
and then you've got 40 minutes, but you have to get dry from the pool 10 minutes before you leave. So you actually had about 30 minutes of fun. Oh, plus lunch.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a question to ask you around what about the emotions attached to sibling connection, like sibling contact? I have witnessed like young people coming together to our youth advisory group, and they've had to leave separate, and like the young kids just being really emotional, having to leave their sibling. It's so hard to see. Like, what's your have you got any experience or anything you want to talk about, like sibling contact?
Sibling contact, honestly, no time will ever be enough time. You can make it longer so that it's better,
Yeah.
but you can't make up for the time that you're apart, kind of thing. It's always going to be hard to say goodbye, but in some instances, when you've been there for an hour and then all of a sudden you're getting told, all right, it's time to leave. A percentage of kids in care, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but they've had trouble. So maybe they've got behavioural issues
Yeah.
where they've been in and out of juvie, or they've got problems with authority. They've got attachment issues
Yeah.
even. I have a couple siblings that do have attachment issues or have had trouble with authority. And they've been sibling accesses where they've called the police in just to get us in cars to go home.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't like being violent or anything. It was like hugging and wouldn't let go. And obviously social workers, you're not supposed to touch the kids. But in some instances, like if you rip those kids apart, you're doing more damage. And then they just called the police in to do exactly that.
Wow.
Well, I'm like, actually want to cry. That's hard.
That wasn't my aim.
No, it's okay. But these are things people need to hear
Yeah.
because this is what young people experience, kids experience.
Don't get me wrong, like there's some amazing social workers out
Absolutely.
there. I had one in particular, we'd be going to Sibling Access and she'd come up to me and she'd tap me on the shoulder and I'd look at her and I'd know what she was saying and she'd go, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It was never, it's time to go pack up. It was
Yeah.
always, I'm sorry, we've got to go.
Oh, that's such a nice way. Not a nice way, but that's
Well, it
a more
is for-
appropriate
yeah,
way,
appropriate,
It's
yeah.
so much better.
a more caring way of ending
Yeah.
sibling contact.
And it was always the drive home, we'd talk about how Sibling Access went and she would ask me,
Oh,
how did you feel about that?
yeah,
I know it wasn't long enough,
yeah.
but how did you feel about the location?
Oh,
That's a really good point.
Yes.
Sorry if I can just
Stuff like that.
just for any worker or workers hearing that,
Yeah.
it's a fine line, isn't it? Like get involved, but it doesn't take much to get involved. Like sit in the car and ask, how did you feel about it? Like
Yeah.
You're
You're debriefing, you're regulating those emotions, you're regulating what just happened to you in the drive.
Such simple gestures
Yeah.
to make the young person feel like, oh, they're actually they do care.
It actually
And it does.
validates
Yeah.
your feelings and your ideas.
Mm.
It also shows that they're not just there to do a job.
And
They're
they
actually
understand
there
the
to help.
system.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
know I would love you to have longer. They
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
like, and it's that understanding. When young people know that the workers understand it also, it just changes everything about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That actually ties into the second last question. Why do you think sibling contact is so important to a child's well-being?
Family is a part of you. If you've got a sibling that you've never met, never talked to, you've subconsciously got a piece of you missing.
Yeah.
And I still feel like it, even though I know most of my siblings. There's some siblings I don't know much. There's some siblings I know pretty well, but not entirely. And it's just kind of, as you learn more about your siblings and your family, you then start finding out more things about yourself.
It's your identity, basically.
Exactly.
It's your identity.
Yeah.
So I found out a new piece of information about my dad, that he actually is Aboriginal as well as my birth mother. So I now know another piece about me.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I love that because it's makes you understand yourself.
It's like a puzzle piece
Mm.
that the puzzle has been thrown across the room and you've got to find all the pieces.
Yep.
Wow,
And
it's a really good way to put it.
Some things you can be helped with,
Yeah.
but some things you can't. Sometimes you just got to crawl under the couch and find out for yourself.
Look, that brings us to our last question, Tanaya. Do you think the system prioritises sibling connection for young people that enter care?
I feel like there's a sense of need for sibling access throughout the system, but I don't think there's a sense of priority. I feel as though sibling access and sibling connection can sometimes get kind of brushed off or hidden under a rug, especially during and after COVID. A lot of my friends who are in care, people I know that are in care, they haven't had a single access since COVID started.
Well, I think that wraps us up, Tanaya.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
taking the time and joining us to share about sibling connection, because it is a big priority within
huge,
Create. One of
yeah.
our hugest priorities recently. We have sibling connection events that are really big. So we, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Tanaya.
Thanks, Tanaya.
Thanks, Fabian.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having me.
Ange.
No
You're
worries.
welcome.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the episode of the Voices in Action Journey in Care podcast. Remember, we have support services listed in the show notes. If you liked this episode, spread the word and leave us a review. Thank you.